Hello folks, welcome to the canal channel Jose. Today we're going to show you how we diagnose a car that won't start, so we can start by diagnosing it quicker so that we don't have to replace components. So as you know, we ended up on the side of the road, and we had no tools at all, not even a screwdriver. So we were on a busy road, so we called a tow truck, brought us to our shop. So now we're going to diagnose our tercel and see what's wrong with it. So we're going to show you how quick we can diagnose a car without replacing components. And with that, let's jump right into it. So our Tercel engine cranks over, but it won't start. And if we let it sit there for a while, if we try to start it, it wants to start, and then it dies and it doesn't want to start again. So how we diagnose a fuel pump without taking components apart? So what we use is this product for this quick diagnosis. We're going to expose the throttle body, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to spray some of this into the throttle body and try with another person and the switch to try to start the engine. If this actually makes the engine to start, and as you spray a little bit more, the engine tries to stay on, and this one actually does the job, then at least we're pinpointing down to the fuel system that there's no fuel. So a lot of people are going to say, no, that's not the right ingredient to test these symptoms. Well, this is $6. So I'm going to use whatever I can get, and it's cheaper and more efficient to trying to diagnose a fuel pump than me taking the fuel pump apart and try to diagnose it outside if it turns on or not. And then if I put it back in the tank, it probably not even creating pressure. So I'm going to diagnose this system with $6 instead of investing more money. Otra vez. So now we notice that once we started the engine for the first time, there was a response. The engine started, and then it bogged down and it shut down. And then once we tried to crank it again, it wouldn't continue to start. It just rotated. So that means that there's spark and there's some fuel that went in, and it made the engine run, and then eventually just didn't go in, no more fuel went into the engine. So we're gonna try this fluid now into the throttle body and see if that works. So we'll take the throttle body uh, intake off and then shoot some liquid in there. So now we're gonna add starting fluid and see what happens. Dale. Dale otra vez. Dale. Trátale ahora. Dale. Now, as we saw, when we tried to start the engine without the starting fluid, the engine wouldn't crank over. Once we start feeding some of this starting fluid right into the throttle body, the engine started to respond, and then it actually made us a backfire. And as we kept feeding some of this liquid spray into the throttle body, the engine stayed running. So now that we know that it's fuel, so we're thinking that the fuel pump has failed, or it just doesn't create the pressure. Now we're gonna go to the fuel pump and see that's the problem. Well, folks, so here we have the fuel pump outside the whole structure, and when we turn on the key all the way to the ignition on, right before we turn to the starter, this thing, the fuel pump, we have to tap it so it can actually rotate. So we have an old one that we're gonna try, and see if that thing is the actual problem. But so far we know that the fuel pump is not turning on until we tap it. So we're gonna exchange it and see if our car starts. So now that we have verified by spraying some of the starting fluid into the throttle body and the car wanted to stay on, or the engine wanted to stay on, we went and replaced the fuel pump with a new fuel pump or a used fuel pump that we had in the shelf. So what we did is this fuel pump, for it to start, we had to tap it and it will spin. We're going to start our engine so we can show you that we have resolved the problem just by replacing a fuel pump that we diagnosed by spraying some fuel into the throttle body. So we diagnosed that it was a fuel pump because we went to the cheapest route on trying to isolate with the starting fluid and taking the components out of the throttle body so we can expose that and so we can shoot the liquid where the air goes in. So we were replacing the fuel that wasn't making it to the engine. So if we sprayed that and the car didn't want to start, then that means that there was no spark or something else was wrong. But because we sprayed that in there and we got a response from the engine trying to start, we kept fitting these, and then the engine tried to start, and then the engine tried to stay on. As soon as we cancel this, then the engine will die because there was no fuel being fed from the fuel pump to the system. So then we can start sending ourselves towards the fuel pump and not into other components. So we're making the noise out to the side by pinpointing what system is creating the engine not to turn on. And in our case, it was a fuel pump or the fuel side. So then we start going to the fuel pump. We took it out of the tank. Then we realized that as soon as we turn it on, it wouldn't rotate. We tap on it and it will turn on. And then we turn off the key and turn it on. And then the fuel pump wouldn't do anything. So we'll have to tap it and then we'll kick on. So we went for a fuel pump. We replaced it with an old one that is working properly. So then we isolated the problem by first exposing it if it's fuel or not. So this was a $6 diagnose and it's back to normal. So with that said, folks, for friends who are watching a video, have to subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe. If you like a video, give us a thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal, El Chano Jose.